Welcome back to the Calm Mind channel. Today, we're going to explore a topic that affects us all, fear, and how to overcome it. Fear can be paralyzing. It can stop us from reaching our full potential, and it can keep us from living our lives to the fullest. But what if I told you that a former slave turned influential philosopher had some insights that could help us conquer our fears? Meet Epictetus, one of the leading figures in Stoic philosophy. Born into slavery in the Roman Empire, Epictetus would go on to become a respected philosopher, whose teachings have influenced countless people over the centuries. Stoicism, for those who are unfamiliar, is a philosophy that teaches the development of self-control and fortitude as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. It doesn't just help us understand our fears, but also provides practical advice on how to deal with them. So, are you ready to learn how to overcome your fears with the wisdom of Epictetus and Stoicism? Let's dive in. Background of Epictetus. Before we delve into the lessons, let's take a moment to understand the man behind the wisdom, Epictetus. Epictetus was born around 55 AD in Hierapolis, Phrygia, located in the eastern borders of the Roman Empire. He was born into slavery, a condition that might seem insurmountable to many. But Epictetus didn't let his circumstances define him. Despite his status as a slave, Epictetus was able to study Stoic philosophy, thanks to his master, who allowed him to attend lectures by the Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus. Eventually, Epictetus gained his freedom after the death of Emperor Nero and began teaching philosophy in Rome. He later had to leave Rome due to an edict by Emperor Domitian, who banished all philosophers from the city. Epictetus then established his own philosophy school in Nicopolis, Greece, where he became one of the most respected philosophers of his time. Epictetus' teachings were recorded by his student Arrian, in a work known as the Discourses. His philosophy has had a profound influence on countless individuals, from Roman emperors to modern-day leaders and thinkers. His philosophy, encapsulated in the Discourses and the Enchiridion, a shorter manual of his teachings, provides practical wisdom on how to lead a good and meaningful life. Now that we know a bit more about Epictetus, let's delve into his teachings on fear and how we can use Stoic philosophy to overcome it. Understanding fear from a Stoic perspective. To tackle our fears, we first need to understand what fear is, especially from a Stoic perspective. Stoicism teaches us that fear, like other emotions, arises from our judgments and perceptions about things, not the things themselves. As Epictetus said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. In other words, it's not the event or situation that causes fear, but our interpretation of it. We fear because we believe something bad might happen to us. For example, if you're afraid of heights, it's not the height itself that scares you, but the thought of falling and getting hurt. Epictetus also believed that fear often arises from our attachment to things that are beyond our control. He said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." So, if we can learn to focus on what's within our control and let go of what's not, we can reduce our fears. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, understanding the nature of our fears and learning to adjust our perceptions and judgments. With this understanding, let's explore the 5 lessons from Epictetus on how to overcome our fears. Lesson 1: Acceptance. The first lesson from Epictetus on overcoming fear is the principle of acceptance. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to, rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens, then you will be happy." This quote encapsulates the Stoic principle of acceptance. It's about understanding that there are things in life we cannot control, and instead of resisting them, we should accept them as they are. For example, we can't control the weather. If it rains and we wanted sunshine, we might feel disappointed or frustrated. But if we accept that the weather is beyond our control and find peace in whatever weather comes, we eliminate the root of our disappointment. The same principle applies to fear. Often, our fears stem from things we can't control. We fear the unknown, the future, the outcomes of our actions. But if we learn to accept that uncertainty is a part of life and that we can't control everything, we can reduce our fears. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or passivity. It means understanding the nature of things, recognizing what's within our control, and focusing our energy there. By practicing acceptance, we can live more in the present, reduce our fears, and find peace in whatever life throws at us. Lesson 2: Control and Choice. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. These words were written by Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. Epictetus believed that we have control over one thing, and one thing only, our own minds. This includes our judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our aversions. Everything else is not under our control, and therefore, not worth worrying about. This might seem like a simple concept, but it's incredibly powerful when applied to our daily lives. Imagine if you could let go of all the things you can't control: the weather, the traffic, other people's opinions. How much more peaceful would your life be? But it's not just about peace of mind. It's also about empowerment. When we focus on what we can control, our own thoughts and actions, we become the masters of our own destiny. We can choose to react with patience instead of anger, with understanding instead of judgment, with acceptance instead of resistance. So the next time you find yourself feeling frustrated or overwhelmed, remember the words of Epictetus. Ask yourself, is this something I can control? If not, let it go. If it is, make the choice that aligns with your values and your goals. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Lesson 3: Perspective and Perception. Now, let's move on to our third lesson from Epictetus, which is all about perspective and perception. This is a fundamental principle in Stoicism. The Stoics believe that we don't react to events themselves, but to our perceptions of those events. In other words, it's not what happens to us that matters, but how we interpret what happens. Epictetus was a master of this principle. He taught that fear often comes from a misunderstanding of our circumstances. We fear because we perceive a situation as threatening or harmful. But if we change our perspective, if we see things in a different light, our fear can be diminished or even eliminated. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're afraid of public speaking. You perceive it as a threat, a situation full of judgment and potential embarrassment. But what if you change your perspective? What if you see it as an opportunity to share your knowledge, to connect with others, to improve your communication skills? Suddenly, the fear diminishes. This is not about denying the reality of your fear. It's about reframing it, seeing it from a different angle. And this is something we can all apply in our lives. Next time you feel fear creeping in, ask yourself, is this fear based on my perception? Can I see this situation in a different light? Remember, it's not the events themselves that cause our fear, but our perceptions of them. And we have the power to change those perceptions. That's a powerful lesson from Epictetus and from Stoicism as a whole. Lesson 4: Resilience and Endurance. Moving on to our fourth lesson from Epictetus and Stoicism, we delve into the concept of resilience and endurance. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." This quote encapsulates the Stoic principle of resilience and endurance. In the face of fear, it's not about avoiding or running away from it. Instead, it's about standing firm, enduring, and growing stronger through the experience. Epictetus himself was a living example of this principle. Despite being born into slavery, he endured, overcame his circumstances, and became one of the most influential philosophers of his time. In practical terms, this means when we encounter fear, we should see it as an opportunity to test our resilience and endurance. It's a chance to grow stronger, to build our character, and to prove to ourselves that we can handle whatever life throws at us. Remember, it's not the fear that defines us, but how we respond to it. And with resilience and endurance, we can respond in a way that not only overcomes the fear, but also transforms us into stronger, more capable individuals. Lesson 5: Wisdom and Virtue. And now, we've arrived at our final lesson from Epictetus and Stoicism on overcoming fear, wisdom and virtue. In the Stoic philosophy, wisdom and virtue are considered the highest goods. They are the qualities that make a life worth living. Epictetus believed that wisdom was the antidote to fear. He argued that fear often arises from ignorance, from not understanding the true nature of things. By gaining wisdom, by truly understanding the world and our place in it, we can dispel our fears. And virtue? Virtue is about living in accordance with nature, about acting rightly and justly. It's about recognizing that we have a duty to ourselves and to others to be the best we can be. When we act virtuously, we build our self-esteem and confidence. We realize that we have the power to do good, to make a difference. And this realization can help us overcome our fears. So, how can we apply this lesson? Start by seeking wisdom. Read, learn, ask questions. Strive to understand the world around you. And act virtuously. Be kind, be just, be brave. Remember, you have the power to make a difference. Conclusion. As we journey through the teachings of Epictetus and the Stoic philosophy, we've learned valuable lessons on overcoming fear. We've learned to accept the things we cannot change, to control our choices, to shift our perspective, to endure hardships, and to seek wisdom and virtue. These lessons are not just philosophical concepts, but practical tools we can use in our daily lives. They remind us that fear is not an external force, but a reaction we can control. Like a mountain standing firm against the wind, we too can stand firm against our fears. We can choose to see fear not as a barrier, but as a challenge to overcome. And as we strive to live according to these lessons, we become wiser, stronger, and more virtuous. We become not just students of Stoicism, but practitioners of a life well lived. So, let's take these lessons from Epictetus and Stoicism to heart. Let's face our fears with courage, wisdom, and virtue. And let's remember that in the grand scheme of things, fear is but a small obstacle on the path to a fulfilling life.